Good evening, all of you Westmarch workshoppers out there. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Westmarch Workshop with yours truly, Leviathan, here on a solo show, unfortunately. I'll get into a little bit of the details as to why that's going down the way it is right now, and also let you know what the schedule will be to get things back on track. Tonight's episode, it's number 98. We're quickly approaching episode 100, so get excited. We'll probably do some memories and recollections, so if you have great fond memories of the show, definitely start sending those in. This is titled That's Diablo for You, which is a little bit of a play to what was going on at Gamescom this past last week, I guess. One of the things that people were saying to me, I got tweeted at me a little bit, was, oh, you have to do something with the title of the Westmarch Workshop for the next episode to talk about some play on a Diablo for You, Diablo Forever, etc. So there you go. There's your homage to that. But yeah, we're here. It's just me, like I was mentioning in the intro. So last week, of course, we were supposed to do our normally scheduled show. I wasn't quite feeling up to it, unfortunately, so I'm sorry for that. As a result, this was supposed to be our week off, so Nineball actually had plans already preset for tonight, so he couldn't join us, but I didn't want it to go for about a month's time since our last episode before we hit you guys up. And, you know, Season 7 has started since we last did an episode, so it only felt right to go ahead and get something out here for you guys. So it is just me. Hopefully that is okay enough for you. I will do my best to cover most of everything, and you know, we'll probably have more discussions on it next week, which is the next show. Next show will be next week, so we're actually it'll almost be like it used to be with the weekly shows, but we're basically, this is a catch-up show, and then next week is kind of a return to the normal bi-weekly schedule. And you'll get notifications if you follow the Westmarch Workshop account on Twitter, which is the WM Workshop. We always tweet out from there to give you updates on kind of what's going on. So here I am. Like I mentioned, Season 7 started way back when. Seems so long ago at this point. But it was really awesome. We had, like we were mentioning before the last show, we had our group of myself, Nineball, Lala, and Dead Advocate. And we ended up playing, I was a demon hunter, Nineball is a witch doctor, Lala also played a demon hunter, and then Dead Advocate ended up going with a monk. I think that was like a last minute change too, but it actually proved to be very useful because he the way his gear dropped along the way ended up pushing him more into a support role, and I cannot speak well enough as to how important it is to actually have someone that's basically just going to dedicate themselves to supporting your group, because you can push way further, more safely, faster, on the hardcore side at the very least, with a support character in tow. And that really helps if you're trying to gun for a lot of the early conquests, if you're trying to really get to the higher level GRs, maybe sooner than your gear suggests you can do it. So that kind of feeds into how our season started out. It took us approximately a little over 3 hours to get to level 70. That's the fastest that we've ever done it, so that was really cool. Season 6, I looked back in the archives of videos, and it actually took us about 4 hours and 5 minutes or so, and this time around was like 3 hours 5 minutes, so we literally improved by 60 minutes, which is really cool. And the only thing really that we did different this time around was I broke off from the group at about level 10, I think, or 11, and I went and got the Leoric's Crown that you can get through the story mode. Got us set up for that checkpoint and got everyone with a Leoric's Crown. So it actually worked out to give us a boost in experience, I suppose, along the way. And a couple of our people, we did like an Act 1 full, clear of the bounties to get Heraldric caches. And I think 2 of the people in our party were able to get a Borns, either Borns or Canes, can't remember. I think I ended up eventually getting a Borns set. So it all worked out to get us some of those experience boosts. But I don't think anyone got a Leoric Signet this time around, which I think was the case in Season 6 as well. So apparently those rings are a little harder to come by. Because I remember, I think Season 2 or 3, when we did some group leveling, it was like raining. We were like upgrading our Leoric Signets every 10 levels because they kept dropping. So just, you know, RNG, I guess. Looking at my notes, so this is just my week in gaming, right? I did a 30-hour marathon stream that first weekend. It was actually really, I don't want to say it was easy to do, but it didn't feel arduous. It didn't feel like it was actually taking a lot out of me to stay up for that many hours in a row playing the game. I think just because things were moving along so well, we were making really good progression, things never stagnated, and no one died, which was awesome, right? No one actually died early on, so that kind of kept things moving along. Nine Ball was the first one to kind of like step out, take a break, then he went to work, and then Lala also took a break. Myself and I think Dead Advocate just went the whole entire time. I don't recall that he ever took a major break. The only time I really stopped was at the 24-hour mark, actually. I stopped and I took a shower, and it was the best feeling ever, because again, it's like summertime here. And you're just like covered in this sheet. You can just like feel the sweat building up on you over the 24 hours. So that was nice to kind of recover. And then that pushed me for another, 6 hours. And I think I honestly could have kept going, but it didn't really, there wasn't anything else to really do, because if you guys remember from episode 97, I said no sleep until all the conquests are done, right? And Nineball was like, oh god, good luck with that. But we effing did that thing, man. We, our group was just so focused. I think we did a really good thing in that we had kind of an email chain going along. And I'm mostly telling this story just for people who maybe aspire to have really coordinated and aggressive starts to the season, because you might be able to pick up some tips from this. But we just had a bunch of email correspondence going on before the season started, like maybe a week or 2 weeks before. Just kind of, saying like, hey, what class are people going to play? Starting out very generic, very general, and then kind of tunneling in more on like, what are our goals? What do we want to accomplish in the first day, in the first like 24 hours, right after we make 70? What do we need to do to prepare ourselves to accomplish the early season goals that we really want to knock out of the park? And just having kind of that directive of knowing, all right, once we do this, we do this. After we do this, we're moving and we're focusing on this. Just made things a lot simpler. Like there was less thinking and stopping to be like, well, we could go blah 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 or blah blah blah. It was just like, no, we already know what the plan is, so execute. But yeah, we nailed down the first 4 conquests. For me, were I Can't Stop, which is the gems one, and I actually got the rank 1 in the Americas for that, which was super awesome. RNG was on my side, I guess. But another thing that I actually realized, so this kind of ties into another story, but I think our group got very lucky with puzzle rings early on, because there was never a time where it felt like we were out of gold, and we were empowering every single greater rift. And I think that was a huge advantage to getting a conquest like that done, which is the level 3 gems to 65. To be able to be the first to do that, you obviously want the most potential chances at gem upgrades. You're going to fail some of them, but if you always have 4 shots at it, you're going to be doing it quicker than someone who's only taking 3 shots each time. So I think that we just got really lucky with having this huge stockpile of gold along the way. And that hasn't been the experience for something else that I've been working on, which I will tell you guys about at the end of this weekend gaming session. But yeah, so we got that one done. We got Avaricia done, and I did that in the Ruins of Corvus with a fully leveled Boon of the Hoarder. Not even a very serious concentration on gold find. Like I had some gold find on a couple of pieces here and there, but for the most part, I only really focused gold find on, I think I ended up throwing the gem into my helm, a fully leveled up flawless royal emerald. But if you're on basically T10 and higher, you get the gold find bonus from being in that difficulty, and then any gold find that you have is multiplicative with that base bonus, so your gold find can ramp up very quickly. You can put your Paragon points into it, which I actually forgot when I was doing it. Again, you can load up on gold find as your secondary affix on a lot of your pieces. The Boon of the Hoarder it's like easy mode for it. Super instrumental for getting that one done. And then that's all you really need. As long as you have a build that kind of keeps moving you forward and killing all those little beetle things quickly, but not necessarily picking up all the gold right away, because you kind of have to plan out your path, or you can run out of time delay between when you pick up your last piece of gold and when you pick up the next one to keep the streak going. I think you only get about like 5 or 6 seconds of a delay in between gold piles to keep that streak running. So Ruins of Corvus is by far the easiest place to do it. I think as far as looking at the way other people have done it, that seems to be one of the most successful ways to do it. There are also people who have been saving up bounty caches and then just opening them all at once. You can do it that way, but to me that seems super boring, and also probably the longest way to do it. And then kind of the intermediate way to go about it would be just going about your business in normal rifts, using a setup that probably benefits from Boon of the Hoarder. Like a lot of the speed builds these days, we use Boon of the Hoarder with an Avarice Band and a Gold Wrap just for kind of like that infinite defense. And then you can just go all DPS on everything else. If you do that and you get a really big open rift, like a Fields of Misery map, or a, I don't know, like any of the really big open ones, you can probably go around that entire map, or like a Northern Highlands map, and you'll be able to collect more than 50 million gold if you're kind of doing it right and moving quickly. So we did those two, and then we did the GR75 solo. That one was a BITCH and a half to get done that early in the season. I think that one was around like hour 21 or so, maybe 25. I haven't looked back at all the records lately, so I don't know for sure. But that one was a little difficult just because you're not geared for it, right? You're scraping the edge of what you know is safe, really, and you're kind of fishing at that point. I had an Ancient Yang's Recurve. I had all my, Unhallowed Essence stuff going for me. That was the free set for Demon Hunters this time around, so that was super, super nice because it gave you so much power so quickly. I think that really, having two of us that had that set, so, also having Lala and the Unhallowed Essence stuff as well, just really gave our group a leg up in terms of here's really good early DPS. So we could blaze through a lot of those, like GR60, GR65s very early. The 75 was interesting because on my climb up to it, I had to keep unlocking the GRs, to be able to get to even try a 75. I think on the way up, like 70 was very easy, 71 was very easy, so I was definitely ahead of the curve compared to my Season 6 attempt at the same Conquest. And then it started to get weird because I think 72 was a little bit more difficult. I had to maybe leave one game and then get another one, kind of fish a little bit. And then like 73 was perfectly fine again. So it was weird. Like my DPS was fine, but it would really start to become dependent on what rift I got and also what mobs I got along the way. And then eventually, I think 75, I had to do 5 to 6 to 7 attempts. A few of them, open it up. Oh, this doesn't look like really great mobs and terrible map, so you leave it. One of them, I actually spawned the Greater Rift Guardian, had about 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe, and then I had one where I ended up killing the boss in like 15 minutes 30 seconds, so it was like just a near miss. And then I actually got that same boss, a Scandiel, if you guys know, he's the one that shoots out arcane beams at you and stuff. And I got him in one of the area crater maps, which is like one of the best maps that you can get for Greater Rifts. And that one just flew by. We got it done. So that was really cool to get that. Definitely the hardest of all the conquests that early on. And then the no set one, the GR45 with no set, Superhuman for hardcore. That was actually the first conquest that I did. And the only reason I went and tried it was because A, I noticed I was accumulating some of the pieces of gear that I wanted for it. B, I felt like my DPS was in a really good spot in terms of like Paragon that was being accumulated and things like that. And then C, someone else had just done it, so I was like, oh man, I'm getting behind the 8-ball of or the 9-ball of trying to be like the first on the server for some of these conquests. So I ended up doing that one second right after that person. The first one I think was a Witch Doctor, which kind of makes sense. Pets will get it done pretty well. Then we were the first DH to do it. I think I was second also on the GR75 one. I think I was fifth on the Avaricia, so I was kind of a little late to the party there, but it makes sense because I leveled my Boon of the Hoarder as my 4th gem, so I was kind of already, behind the curve. Even though you might not need it, if you can just go to T11 and kill stuff, you might get enough gold drops naturally where you might not even need it, but better safe than sorry. And then after the 24-hour mark, we were thinking about doing Speed Racer, which is the clear the entire, acts 1 through 5 in 1 hour. And Nineball wasn't home. He was at work. And so it was just Dead Advocate, Lala, and myself. And I was like, oh man, like I saw groups starting to finish it. I was like, I really just want to do it. This is my last Conquest. Like, I really just want to get it done. And I was contemplating if we would just run it as a 3. Because I think there was like a monk who had done it solo or something. And I know DHs can do it solo. So I was starting to freak out a little bit. I was like, oh my god, a lot of people are starting to do this Conquest. But what happened was we ended up doing a practice run of Act 1 while waiting for Nineball to come home, because it turned out he was actually not too far off of getting back online. And so we almost timed it perfectly, where we did the Act 1 run just to kind of get a feel for it, have Dead Advocate doing the shot calling, and then Nineball logged on, and then we just got right to it. First try, knocked it out. I think we had about a minute or so. Like, we had some acts, I think our first 2 acts were a little behind time, like not the best RNG and not the best, maybe not the best movement through those acts. But I think we made up a lot of time. I think we had a really good Act 5, and our Act 4, it's usually a quick act anyways, but it felt like maybe extra quick. And Act 3 wasn't too bad at all either. So that was a cool start to, the first 30 hours of the season. Got all those conquests done. And then a lot of the things for the seasonal journey weren't that bad either. Just knocking out, augmenting. A lot of the things are kind of, I wouldn't say tedious, but they just require you to do a lot of that activity. So, cubing up a whole bunch of legendary powers, augmenting quote unquote high level gems onto your gear. They just take time. So eventually you get those done, and then your seasonal journey is done too. So I finished all those things, and I was like, man, at this point, I don't know. I think I might just ease off a little bit. So it was more just, onto the Paragon farming. And I think I've landed around like Paragon 925 in that first, I think in the first week I got to 900 like right before Sunday ended. So that was really exciting. After the first weekend, all 3 of us, myself, Dead Advocate, and Lalo, were actually really highly ranked for Paragon in the Americas server for hardcore, which is kind of cool to see. So it was just cool to like have everyone on the same page going super hard. Outside of that, I think the only thing that I could probably impart from early knowledge of some of the stuff that's new to this season in particular is that it was important to know what was going to happen with the different chapters in order to get your Hadrix gifts. Because I think the way that we did it was a little more efficient, and maybe wasn't the best way to do it. But I think just knowing kind of what is coming up, which ones you can actually like shortcut. So for instance, I think we talked about this last episode too, but if you clear a regular rift on Torment 1, then if the seasonal journey asks you to also do that on Master and Expert and stuff, you get that all checked off. So if you can kind of prolong that activity until you do it at a higher level, then you don't have to hit all those little check marks along the way. So that can kind of help. Also, T11, so let's talk about the new Torment levels. So T13, I think, is super inefficient for anything that's not like very specific. And what I mean by that is I think the only time you should really use T13, unless you're like super geared in a really like super geared 4-player party, would be for Ubers, because you get a guaranteed 3 materials from each Uber fight, I should say. And that's important just because now you get rid of that, oh, it only dropped me 2 and all the others dropped me 3, so now I have uneven mats, and you can know going in that you'll be able to make 3 amulets after this run for sure. And the bosses, like, they're more HP, but they're not that much harder. It's still that equivalent of GR60, I think. So not terrible, but I think just for your normal, like, I'm collecting keys for greater rifts and stuff, I think T11 is really the sweet spot. It's really fast solo. It's of course going to be obliterated in a party, and it just seems like it's a good spot to be at because you're guaranteed 2 greater rift keys for each Torment 11 regular rift, and then I think there's almost a guaranteed chance for 2 death spreads. I think it's like a 90% chance for the second one to drop, so you'll also get a nice income of death spreads along the way as well. and the legendary drop rate's pretty solid there too. So I think just from a efficiency standpoint, if you're really trying to collect resources, I would say to stick to T11 until your gear is like, you're anciented, augmented out. Then probably from a solo standpoint, you can do some T12, but I would still say T11 is probably going to be better. And then, T13 for your really, really geared up groups. But I still contest that you might just be better being on T11. And then I mentioned I felt like we were lucky getting puzzle rings and having a plethora of gold early on. I say that because I then made a softcore, and I know the room is now on fire. Yes, I made a softcore Crusader about 4 days ago, last weekend, basically. And it was interesting because I didn't have a Hadrig set. Like, my seasonal journey was done by that point, so I didn't have any seasonal journey shortcuts to help me along with getting a set for my Crusader. I didn't run into any puzzle. I haven't found a single puzzle ring yet. And I'm like pretty geared up at this point in some Invoker stuff. But yeah, I think I've empowered one Greater Rift on my Crusader, which makes a huge difference. So it's kind of night and day. It made me realize that maybe there was some extra RNG things going on to make our start on the hardcore side so much easier than this kind of like solo start on the other side. And I'm sure some of you are wondering why I did this. Why am I playing a softcore Crusader? All of my characters are alive, by the way. I have a Barbarian that's also on the hardcore side that's geared up in some Raycore and IK pieces. I might explain it. I might wait until 9ball's here and we can have a discussion on it, but there are just some activities and things that happened within the community that made me feel a little less than happy with the state of hardcore, and I guess I can't leave it at that for now. Alright, so moving along, Season 7, that's pretty much it. In terms of what we've been noticing across the board, just kind of looking at trends, it seems like the meta for the 4 players is the whole 2 support, 2 DPS, and it looks like your DPS are actually the Raiment monks. Seems some of the videos that we've been seeing from the World 1 kind of, rank 1 world clears that are being done by Empyrean, I think Empyrean Gaming, something like that, on the Europe side. It's been done with Raiment monks because they just put out a crap ton of damage with that generator build. But at the same time, we're actually seeing a decent amount of variety, like in groups that are highly competitive in general. The supports might not necessarily be like a monk and a barbarian. You might see a support demon hunter in there. You might see a support witch doctor still, and they're still, completing these GR 100 pluses. I think last I saw the seasonal high was a GR 107 or something like that. You're also seeing for the DPS role, Firebats witch doctors, as well as potential for replacement on DPS because they can utilize the Ring of Emptiness as well, which is something we'll talk about, to put out tons of damage as the Witch Doctor. So that could also be something you swap in if you don't have, another monk friend, but you have a really good Witch Doctor. And still seeing also the Gargantuan Helltooth Witch Doctors doing very well for DPS output and stuff. So there's still a lot of variability. I think this is one of the best seasons for 4-player compositions that don't feel clouded or I guess not even clouded, that don't feel stripped down to just one mode of being able to do it. Wizards are really kind of, I guess they're not nowhere to be found. Some people are still doing some Firebirds, Wizards, Archon type stuff. Maybe you can sub that in as a DPS as well. I don't know exactly how well it would work, but it kind of feels like anything besides a Crusader really has a shot to come into the 4-player meta either as a support or a DPS, but Crusaders are really just like, no, you're out of luck. Unfortunate. As far as other Season 7 things, not really much else to report. It kind of feels like this is the least active season. I think that might be fair to say. I noticed that on the opening night, our clan, which normally is, just like full to the brim and tons of outstanding requests to get in as well. We actually had tons of space for people to get in. I think our numbers in terms of people that were online at the start of the season was around like 50, and I've seen that number be like as high as 100 in the past, out of 149 to 150 slots. So I don't know, it just felt a little emptier to start, and people kind of came and went in that first weekend as well too. And I've seen a fair amount of activity on like Reddit and things like that, so people are definitely still playing and still talking about it. But overall, it just kind of feels like this season is a little bit of a downturn in terms of activity and numbers and involvement. So I'm curious to see if it's really just like a summer malaise. Like, there's a lot going on with the other Blizzard games too. Legion is coming for World of Warcraft, so I know a lot of people are doing some pre-Legion stuff. There was a patch that basically came out the week after Season 7 started. There's the Overwatch stuff with like their summer cup thing or whatever. I don't know, something's going on there. So, there's just a lot of things that can detract your attention. Oh, there was the one night in Karazhan, I don't know how you say that, for Hearthstone. So I mean, there's just a ton of other like new updates to the other Blizzard offerings. So if you're one of those people that plays multiple games, I could see you being dragged across the board, and so you're just like, maybe Season 7 is one I won't play seriously, or I'll skip, or something like that. The hotfix heard around the world. The night before Season 7 was set to launch, there was a hotfix that took place, and I actually have that, yes, I have that up here on the screen. Oh boy, so basically what happened was that right before the season started, they decided that the Ring of Emptiness was not working the way that they had intended it to work. It was boosting damage of pets, and they really just meant it to boost the damage of the Witch Doctor. It was supposed to be something that was for synergy with the Jade Harvester set. And well, they changed it. Like right before people were solidifying what they were going to play and what party compositions and things like that, they decided, you know what, nope, we're going to make this change. We don't want to do it during the season, we'll do it before the season. Even though I feel like it was kind of a lose-lose situation for them. The only thing that would have been better would have been to actually have it changed before the patch came out. It was something that was in PTR, it was being tested, it was being played in the way that they decided they didn't like. So I'm kind of curious as to why it wasn't updated either in a PTR patch or right before. And I do have this tweet from Wyatt kind of discussing it. It says that, agree, sooner would have been better. There were a few factors to consider, but ultimately wanted the hotfix out before the season start. So that kind of explains why they went that route. But I think a lot of people were still kind of rubbed the wrong way by it happening. So there is kind of, that PR backlash maybe. All I can think is that maybe they didn't have the right change in place. Like maybe it would have been something that they wanted to roll out with the patch, but the way the timing was for the patch, they just didn't quite have the coding working properly for it to only affect the Witch Doctor, and it was just something they eventually were able to do a little later than they would have liked. But a bit rough. We also had an email that came in from 69ball, who was kind of asking us about it. His email states, so the nerfs to Witch Doctor came literally the day before S7 started, and it's made a lot of people upset. I hardly play the Witch Doctor, so I can't say if that was a good or bad decision by the devs, but what are your thoughts? Do you agree/disagree with the nerf? And so that is kind of the other side of this, right? Is I don't agree with the timing, but I actually really, really agree with the change. I think it made sense that it really looked like this thing was supposed to be a ring that was to boost up the Jade Harvester and make that more competitive with the Helltooth setups and things like that. So it's supposed to give the Witch Doctor more flexibility, more variability in their setups, and instead it was actually just really pigeonholing people into not only Helltooth setups, but also very specific Helltooth setups, because now you're already looking at either 2 skills on your bar if you have both Haunt and what is the Pestilence is one of the runes, but I can't remember. Oh, Locust Swarm. So you have Haunt or Locust Swarm locked down on your bar, or you're utilizing items that give you those effects, and you're really tied to that setup. So it is kind of nice to take that out of a setup that really was kind of having it forced in there, and then putting it to work more in its natural setting where you're already incentivized to use both Haunt and Locust Swarm, which is the Jade Harvester set. So thanks for that question, 69 Ball. I think that was important to at least discuss. I don't know if any of you out there were affected by this hotfix. I'd like to hear how it affected you, or like how you coped with it. If you feel like your Witch Doctor experience ended up being any better or worse, or if you just abandoned Witch Doctor plans altogether once you realized that the Ring of Emptiness was no longer going to work the way you thought it would. And you can send an email to Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com for that, or send us a tweet, the WM Workshop. We read both locations, so you can let us know how you feel. So that happened. It was kind of sad, it was tragic, but we got over it. People are still seeming to enjoy Season 7, and the Witch Doctor, by the way, is still super strong. Like I mentioned, the Helltooth Gargantuans are still perfectly viable. One of the earliest DPS setups that I saw in Greater Rifts. So, you know, Witch Doctors aren't doing too badly. Notes. Gamescom. So that happened last week. Gamescom 2016. It styles itself as the world's largest trade fair for video games and computer games. It from the looks of the venue, it is ginormous. Apparently they had hundreds of thousands of people come through across the several days that it was open. I actually wrote an article on diablo.blizzpro.com if you want to check that out. It will let you know kind of some of the details on what the Diablo particular offerings were there, but also Blizzard in general had a full presence. They brought all their games, Overwatch, Hearthstone, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, I'll probably forget, Heroes of the Storm. They had updates for pretty much all those games. And of course, as Diablo fans, we were, what's the word? We were very much looking forward to it. I don't know what word to use. We were anticipating something because we haven't had much of anything in the way of announcements or hints at the future of the game. So we're kind of hoping with the spotlight on Gamescom and it being such a big place, with them having revealed huge things in the past, like the Legion expansion last year, or Reaper of Souls in 2013. We're like, hey, this could be a shot at, you know, another huge announcement. None came to pass, unfortunately. So what you could expect from it for a Diablo fan was they had all three, which is kind of cool, Diablo games available to play, the original Diablo, Diablo 2, and Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls. So that might have been interesting for anyone who was there and either hasn't played some of the older games ever or hasn't played them in a long time. And it kind of gave us a sense of, what's this focus on the older stuff? A lot of the talking points that we found from the Gamescom, there was an interview with Wyatt on kind of like day 0 of Gamescom, the day before it was open to the public. His interview really focused more on the whole idea of this is the 20th anniversary of Diablo as a franchise. We really want to celebrate both, you know, what's going on right now with Diablo 3, but also the past of the original Diablo and Diablo 2. So they kind of just had this, you know, feels good man nostalgia thing going, of just a celebration of Diablo, but nothing about the future. It was actually funny. One of the things I noted from that interview was one of the questions that Zoe, the interviewer, was asking Wyatt was like, you've done all these patches with, you know, really big updates, you know, adding extra treasure goblins and things like that. What can we expect for the future of Diablo 3 development? And then Wyatt kind of used that question to talk about the past of like what they've done in previous patches and stuff. So that to me was just kind of like, oh man, she asked the good question, the question that we kind of want the answer to, but we didn't get a very clear answer to that. And that was pretty much it. There were streams also being done by Quinn69 and Mr. Llama SC. Quinn was just doing his normal seasonal stuff, and Mr. Llama is a speedrunner who's been to some of the Games Done Quick events, the charity events that they do biannually. And he was speedrunning some of the Diablo 2 characters through quick plays of the game. And then the other offering that they had was a live art demonstration, a live art design kind of thing, where Paul David, one of the artists at Blizzard, and particularly working on Diablo art, basically went through and made a piece of art in front of everyone while also taking questions from the crowd and questions from the host that was on stage with him. It was really cool. One of the things that kind of the community and Reddit picked up on was that he was designing the, I think the Wanderer from Diablo 2. And so everyone was like, ooh, it's a Diablo 2 thing again, and he's making it in 3D. Like, is this another sign of some sort of Diablo 2 HD remake? Are they hinting at something coming up? You know, we're just looking for answers at anything. We're searching all the tea leaves. We're trying to divine on every single star that falls, or, you know, meteorite or whatever. So we're just looking for any kind of answers or hints or things like that. So that was something people picked up on, which was kind of cool. And who knows, we might get information on that at BlizzCon. BlizzCon's kind of like the last hurrah for 2016 in terms of us hearing anything, because we know around holiday time, Blizzard tends to shut down and be very quiet. So it's really kind of BlizzCon or bust for any sort of groundbreaking news. And like I was mentioning before I started the show here, I think we're going to have to look at the news cycle coming up and realize that we probably will not hear much of anything. It'll be very silent as far as Diablo news goes, because it's just Season 7 kind of rolling along right now. The only thing we might hear between now and BlizzCon is like PTR stuff, which could give us a hint of maybe what might be talked about at BlizzCon, or at least, you know, it will let us know what to look forward to on the next patch in Season 8. But it's really going to be arrive at BlizzCon, see what's available for Diablo, and if it's more silence or more nothing, then there's obviously still the unannounced project going on, but it then kind of confirms that it's still a very, very early product or project that they're not ready to talk about or to divulge information on just yet. So that's something to look forward to. Another thing that people have wanted me to point out and talk about, let me swap over here to my news section. I'm just showing the article that I wrote up. If you guys want to check this out, there's that interview with Wyatt that I was talking about. This is also the VOD of the art design that Paul David did. And actually, a fun fact, during that during this design process, he noted that he was the guy that made the Cat Mojo, the Henry's Perquisition. So that was kind of cool. People have been wanting me to talk about this. On screen is a tweet that the official Diablo Twitter account authored in response to a question, well, kind of a statement, but I'll just read. So this comes from Big Ryan, or at Coleslaw 1989, and he says, at Diablo, I really hope this year Diablo gets a huge announcement at BlizzCon, ... sad face. And then the Diablo account responded at Coleslaw 1989, BlizzCon will be really cool this year, smiley face, with a nose in it as well, if that's important. Everyone took this to mean, holy shit, there's gonna be a huge announcement at BlizzCon for Diablo. Get hype, get the hype train running. I saw like tons of news syndicates running with this. I saw Reddit blow up with this, people retweeting it, etc. I'm not convinced. You know me, I'm usually the guy I'm the first person in line to get there for hype. I'm like, yo, let's go, let's hype, let's all caps this. But I don't know if it's just coming off of the Gamescom sadness, because I was pretty sad about the way things went at Gamescom, and it's weird because going in, I kept having that conversation in my head. I was like, by the way, they haven't like given us any reason to believe there should be a really hype announcement or anything from Gamescom, so don't expect it. But of course I still expected it anyway. But let's look at what's actually being said. BlizzCon will be really cool this year. That could be a 100% true statement, but that actually could have nothing to do with Diablo. That could just be Diablo account saying, hey, It's gonna be a really fun time like it has been in past years. You should come on through. And if you remember recent past years, we didn't have a lot of huge announcements or news for Diablo. I think anyone that went to BlizzCon last year could say that was a pretty cool BlizzCon too. And we had like the Slaughtered Calf Inn and stuff like that, the lightning talks, like those were cool, but they weren't groundbreaking announcements or anything. Also, the statement is, I hope that Diablo gets a huge announcement at BlizzCon, but this tweet doesn't say, yes, that is what you will receive. So I don't understand what where is the confirmation here? Why run with this in particular? I don't know. For me, like I want to grab onto hype. I want to love it. I want to be all up on it. But this isn't enough to convince me. I'm going, so no matter what, I really do hope that something huge goes down. But I think I've gotten to the point where I overhyped everything in the first half of this year to the point where in the second half I'm just like, I'm good. I'm gonna go in with the lowest of expectations, and then you can surprise me when you drop all the bombs. And I hope that's the case. I really do. I want there to be positivity and awesomeness throughout the community, and I'm glad that people are hyped on this. But I just personally can't. I'm just personally not quite there with you guys yet. It's gonna be really cool. I love like Nine Ball's comment like, oh, so extra AC units installed this year? It actually is usually pretty cold inside of BlizzCon, so that would be the trolliest if that was actually what they meant. Bring a jacket. It's gonna be cool. Word. So yeah, that was pretty much it from Gamescom. It spanned a few days. There were some streams. There was the art thing. I actually don't know what Wyatt did while he was there. We didn't really hear much beyond that first kind of taped interview that he did. I'm assuming he was kind of just milling about and being a presence, doing the Wyatt thing of telling stories and just generally enlightening people's lives with all sorts of goodies of Diablo knowledge. And that's pretty much it for news items. There have been a couple of other like hot fixes and things along the way, but nothing really major to support. I keep saying support. Nothing really major to report. And like I mentioned, we're probably entering a bit of a news lull. So we'll see. I don't know. Nineball might have some grand plan of how he feels about things now. I guess the only other potential thing to mention within the realm of Gamescom is that I want to say a day or two before it occurred, someone somewhere found a leak. I think it was like a Korean or Chinese website. Ended up leaking that there was a StarCraft, the original StarCraft HD remake in the works or ready, or I don't know, ready to be revealed. Basically, some source has it that there is a StarCraft HD thing either confirmed to be being worked on or happening, and so that was also kind of fueling some of this. Oh, they're remaking HD versions of their old games, like so Diablo, the original Diablo, might have a HD remake. I've seen a couple of different varying opinions on it. For instance, JR, our co-founder here at BlizzPro, he kind of more is in line with it just being a like technological update, basically allowing you to launch something like a Diablo 1 or Diablo 2 straight from the Battle.net desktop application. Just integrating it a little bit easier, because right now it's a pain and a half, and I don't even think you can get Diablo 1 to work on a modern operating system. And Diablo 2, you have to like finagle a bunch of things to make it happen. So I think it might just be something where they're updating the BDA to kind of implement those things and work a little bit more seamlessly than what you have to do right now. And I actually would be interested. I don't know if anyone here live in chat was at Gamescom and could tell us kind of how the computers were set up so you could play the Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 versions. But if anyone listening would like to correspond and let us know what the computer setup looked like, was it just there live on the computer and there wasn't like a Battle.net desktop application open to select which game you wanted to play? That would be interesting to know, because then we would kind of have some idea of what to expect. Alright, so we can move into emails. We don't have too many of them. Oh, I forgot something. I talked about my week in gaming, but I didn't talk about my adjacent week in gaming, which is stuff that's kind of gaming related, but not necessarily gaming oriented, which is I was able to meet up with a listener of the show, Alienationer. Some of you guys may have seen my tweet from it. It was just last night that we got together and we had dinner. Here's a little picture of us that we took at the end of the night. It was an awesome time. He is in the area for work. He reached out to me, was just like, hey, you know, I'd love to meet up and hang out and talk. We talked for about 3 hours just about like Diablo stuff, life stuff, all sorts. It could have been a podcast on its own. It was really cool and just like a humbling experience to meet up with someone who just truly loves the show, loves what we do here. And you know, I want more of that. So if any of you guys are ever in the New England area and you feel like you'll have time for it, definitely reach out to me, send an email. You can send it either to the show, westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com, or directly to me at leviathan@blizzpro.com. And we can make more things like this happen. Like, it would be cool if a lot of people were in the area and we could do like even a little like mini BlizzCon, like a get together where we do like a round table and we could even record like a conversation like that, right? And produce that as something adjacent to the podcast. Definitely do not feel afraid to reach out. Apparently I don't bite, you know, this guy is still alive, so you can talk to Alienationer about the experience as well. But it was a lot of fun. I definitely just wanted to give a shout out to him for kind of organizing it and making it happen. And yeah, more of that in the future for sure. So yeah, community section, onto the emails. Glad I remembered to do that. We have one email that came in from Fyrus, or Fyrus. He's gonna hate me because he didn't give me a pronunciation guide, and usually I'm not the one that messes up the names. But I'm so cognizant of it because I know he gave us the exact way to say it, and I'm forgetting. But he sent us a screenshot, which I will pop up on stream for you guys here. A little death screenshot, and he's been playing the Demon Hunter, and I kind of made fun of him early in the season. Not made fun of, but I was just like, dude, what's going on? I see that you're dying on Demon Hunter quite a bit this season. And I guess it's just, it's actually kind of a lesson in continued effort, because this is a class that's not super familiar for him. He's learning and still doing more, and continuing to come back after each death, having learned something, hopefully, from all those deaths. And this is kind of just like, this is the spirit of hardcore, in my opinion. It's not a thing that, you know, if it's not for you, what happens is you die, and you're like, F that, I'm never doing this again, and you go right back to softcore, or you stop playing for a while, or something like that. For the people that, like, the hardcore juice hits, you run into a situation like this where you die, and you're like, crap, but I want more. I want to get better at this. I want to keep going. So you can see it's a Greater Rift 65, and he emailed to say, this is so far my favorite one, speaking of his deaths. He said his vault landed him right on top of the wall of fire that's right next to his health globe. And he's in the Act 3 Keep Deaths 2 kind of area where there are a lot of those fire grates. Unfortunately, his vault landed him right on top of the wall of fire next to his health globe. He ran forward, and then there was a room of electrified elites. And then he tried vaulting back out the way he came in, and clearly did not make it. This one, he said he actually laughed at pretty hard. So that's, you know, that's the spirit. I mean, all you can do is you can get mad or you can laugh, but either way, you got to get back on the horse and keep on going. I feel like Demon Hunters are one of the hardest classes to keep alive because each death is so quote-unquote hardcore. It's just unforgiving, so, you know, it makes it a lot harder to feel like you can. It's not forgiving, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It makes it tougher to really get close scrapes and then survive from them and be like, okay, I won't do that again. Sometimes it's kind of like you're alive, you're dead. So that's you know, that's a good advertisement for Demon Hunter Hardcore. Jump on it. We have another email that came in, this one from the Red Worm, and he wants to talk about his experience with his first season as a new PC player, because normally he used to write into the show as one of our console players. And so he says, hello all, I am a longtime Diablo player from the Xbox side of life. Recently I got a newer laptop, and I tried the trial of D3 on it, and I was surprised that it actually ran pretty well. Playing in the higher Torment on console means having to have lots of friends because every game has modded players that just ruin the fun of the game. So I took the dive the day before the season started and purchased the Ultimate Evil bundle in Blizzard's shop. Getting used to the mouse and keyboard has been a challenge, but feels second nature already. I rolled a Witch Doctor in Season 7, maining Witch Doctor on Xbox One, so I knew my way around that class, and then I joined their clan already, and just having a community like that has made me glad to be on the PC side. There are 2 features on console D3 that would be really cool to be on the PC version. He asks, have you guys played the console version at all? To which I answer, I know that in fact both myself and Nineball have played console. I played a ton of the original console, the non-expanded version, which at the time when it came out was the superior way to play Diablo 3 because it was like crazy drop rates. It felt really fast. It felt really like comfortable being on a controller. And then of course Reaper of Souls came out, so I went back to the PC version, and then I bought a PS4 to get the Ultimate Evil edition, and I've played it like once pretty much just to know what it was like. I have a Crusader on there. It's probably like level 30 or something. Actually, I used to play console when there was like DDoS attacks on the PC, so unfortunately, you know, you couldn't really do PC stuff. And then hey, we just play on the console for a little bit. I see in chat music got a little loud there. Yeah, I actually heard it in my headphones too. I was trying to adjust it, but sorry for that. Tried to talk over it. So yeah, I've done a little bit of console, not nearly as much as you have, obviously, but a little bit. On console, there are these gifts that drop when legendaries drop sometimes. These gifts are labeled as a gift for insert player name here. You click on those gifts, and that player receives a random legendary in their mail. Having a full friends list of people who play would give me about 10 plus legendaries a day. Also, there is a nemesis system on the softcore side in console. Basically, when a friend dies, there's a chance for a demon to spawn into your game with loud war horns alerting you that it's coming, and it has a high chance of legendary drops and gift drops. If it kills you, it gets stronger and will leave and go into another player's game until someone kills it. Its name will even say the friends that it's killed before on it. I'd love to see these come to the PC version personally. What do you think? And also, he notes if anyone wants to add him as a new player, his battle tag is the Red Worm number 11234. That's actually a crazy battle tag. That number is awesome. That seems like it would almost be fake. That's pretty cool. Also crazy that they're up to 5-digit battle tags now. Nuts. My Witch Doctor is closing in on Paragon 200. In parentheses, casual father, and I'm having a blast. So thanks for that email, the Red Worm. Yeah, we talked about it on the podcast in previous episodes. We'd love to have the Nemesis system in particular come over. I actually didn't realize that it was softcore only. I think it would be cool if that came over to hardcore too. Obviously, like, it would surprise some hardcore players. Maybe it would only spawn in like friends on your hardcore friend list, basically, who have done like T10 Ubers or some level of difficulty that they've gone through to unlock kind of the spawning of a nemesis, so that it's not happening to like someone who just freshly hit 70 and now they're dealing with this ridiculous monster that one-shots them or something. But yeah, that'd be cool if that came over. And the friend system, the friend legendary drop thing, I think I remember when they were talking about why they implemented that, and it was to sort of help out with the idea of asynchronous play. Because sometimes you have people that are not online playing with you at the same time. So if you have a friend that's going to come over, you want to be able to like send him that gift and kind of get them caught up. But I feel like that kind of happens in PC too. Like, there's no real reason for it to not happen. I mean, there's no like come on over and play. You can bring your PC next to my PC or something. But I mean, I don't see why it would hurt. Like, the only thing someone might argue is that, oh, it's just more legendary drops, and we already have a ton of legendary drops. But, I mean, once you're kind of over a threshold where the game isn't being super stingy, it might as well be more rewarding. Obviously not to the point of, like, PTR drop rates, because that's absolutely insane. But, yeah, if it drops 10 extra legendaries that have friends' names on it per day, like, that's not a bad thing at all. So, cool. Really interesting to have someone that's now extensive. Well, obviously you've extensively played console, and you will build up some of that acumen on PC as well. So it'll be interesting to hear about your ongoing notice of differences and things like that as you get deeper into this season. Thank you for sending that email in. I didn't laugh at the Paragon 200. I laughed because after that he said casual father. I promise I'm not making fun of anyone's Paragon level. Each Paragon point is precious in its own right. And then we have an update coming in from Sergeant Psycho, because he's doing stuff that will unfortunately take him away from the game. He says, "Sup fellas, just dropping a line to inform everyone that I'll be out in Western Westmarch for a few weeks training for going to Eastern Canderous next year." What? No Desolate Sands? I'll let you know when that happens so you can track the offline time pileup. Since I knew that this was coming up, I've been trying to race to Conqueror before I left. I'm getting close, but I'm pushing the time limit. Not too worried though, since I'll have season time when I get back. During this season, the one new thing I could say is that I don't like the Potion of Chaos. This is the one that randomly teleports you. Half the time I end up in the middle of the pack. It's like a wormhole, but I don't know where I'll end up. It's definitely a dangerous prospect. I'm sure you know already, but I wouldn't recommend it for hardcore use. Anyway, may your Season 7 go well, your legendaries be ancient, and your coffers be in the billions. The Iron Wolf who's not in the sands, Sergeant Psycho. And then he gave us an update email saying, "Hey, sup fellas, just dropping a line to inform everyone." Oh wait, no, sorry. That's what I just read. His update's at the bottom. "I've made Conqueror the day before I had to leave. Special shout out to Big Pippin for helping me out with the T13 Rift in 5 minutes. We did it on the first try." So that's awesome. Glad you met your goal right before you had to ship out. Always good to get that done nice and early. You know, one of the things that Nineball was talking about a couple episodes ago was, you know, there was that one season where he wanted, like, his main goal was to get through the seasonal journey. He got somewhere along with it in the early part of the season, and then he had to take all this time off mid-season, and then he ended up basically having to, like, really push for trying to get it done within the last, like, week or two of the season, and he actually didn't end up finishing. So it's always nice to get some of that stuff done on the early side, because you just never know what life will throw at you on the other side. So there you go. Those are our emails from the last couple of weeks, which seems light, but we actually got a lot of items of the week. So we'll go into items of the week. I promise that's going to get better someday. Here we have an item slideshow, and let me bring up these items on my screen so that I can see them, because sometimes on the actual stream screen it's a little difficult for me to read all the little stats. So our first item coming up, and actually a lot of these have stories, so also read the stories. This first item coming up is from Mark of Death, and he has gotten his hands on Helltooth gauntlets. See what I did there? Hands, gauntlets, gloves? No? Okay. These gloves are coming in with 724 intelligence, a critical hit damage increase by the perfect 50%, critical hit chance increased by the perfect 10%, and then a rerolled stat of chance to deal 19% area damage on hit, and then secondaries of, oh my goodness, I can't read. Well, the secondary is maybe 154 physical resistance, a lot of physical resistance, and then 35% extra gold from monsters. And now the story behind this is, sup fellows, it's been a while since I've submitted something to the show. So when these bad boys dropped, I figured it was a good time for another submission. These dropped in Season 7 when I was gambling for taskers. They're not ancient, but I figured it was still worth submitting given the near-perfect rolls. What's nice about these gloves is they provide the flexibility of rolling for vitality or cooldown reduction or area damage as the need arises. Love the show, Mark of Death. So thank you, Mark, for submitting those. Definitely some versatile gloves. Next up, another Witch Doctor item. You might think this class is popular this season or something. These are coming in, this Ancient Star Metal Kukri is coming in from Replay. And like I mentioned, it is ancient. It's got 2,591.4 DPS on there, a perfect 1,000 intelligence, a critical hit damage increased by a perfect 35%, a increase mana regeneration by a perfect 14 per second, and then on the secondary, 10,054 life after each kill, and then the legendary power that we all know and love, Reduce the cooldown of Fetish Army and Big Bad Voodoo by 1 second each time your fetishes deal damage. And I think, but I'm not positive, that this is one of those items that can roll with 5 primaries. So I think he rerolled a primary for a socket. Otherwise, there's also a Ramalani's on here, but I'm not sure. But there is a socket with a max level critical hit damage gem that gives him 130% CHD. Story behind this one: sup fellas, Season 7 has been a blast with the Witch Doctor so far. I wish I had more time to group up, but I try to when I can. I'm really interested in the pet build, and I also want to try and put together a Jade setup along with Fetish setup. Even the Bats and Bears seem interesting to try and make builds that really shine. I hope everyone's season's going well, and I look forward to the next show. And I actually got to play with Replay a little bit. We were doing some, I think like GR75s or so, pretty early in the season, and they were going quite swimmingly. So he's got a very nice Witch Doctor going for him. So thank you for that submission, much appreciated. Next up on screen, you have an Ancient Unity in front of you, and this is sent in by Swarm133. He says, I'll actually give you the story and then I'll give you the stats. He says, sup fellas, I found this lovely ring 4 days into the season, and I'm loving the Jade playstyle this season. What do you know? Another Witch Doctor. It's probably one of the more interesting playstyles, and I've messed about with on Witch Doctor, and a lot more fun than having your Gargantuan on strike, sitting next to elites while you're dodging affixes, waiting for them to snap out of it. Oh, the fun. I'm really loving the fact that there are so many viable builds this season for the Witch Doctor. Keep up the stream, guys. Regards, Swarm133. And again, this is an Ancient Unity. It's been re-rolled for a critical hit damage increased by 49%. It came with a native critical hit damage increased by 5%. Increased damage against elites by the perfect 15%. And then a secondary of 209 physical resistance. And of course, the legendary power, where all damage taken is split between wearers of this item. And it looks like he rolled off what probably was main. Oh, actually, no, he rerolled the critical hit damage. So he probably rerolled a main stat into this critical hit damage roll, but it also came with a socket. So this is like one of those really like GG unities, because then you can turn it into just a pure damage percentage booster. And he also put and actually this is kind of one of the fun things that we used to talk about, right? Was you would have ancient items like your Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, which are just all percentage based damage multipliers or buffs or things like that, and those aren't affected by an item being ancient. Like their damage ranges or their potential roll ranges aren't increased by being ancient. So you're like, what's the point? Well, the point is now you can augment it. So he put a 350 intelligence augment on here by using a rank 70 gem for Caldesan's Despair. And I should mention that the gem that's in the socket is an esoteric alteration at rank 77. So some really good stuff going on here. I'm glad to hear that things are going well for your Witch Doctor. And last but not least, we have a Ancient Compass Rose, and this is sent in by Ferris as well. He actually sent us 2 items, but I decided to go with this one because I think it's the better of the 2 that he sent. This is an unrolled Compass Rose, and it's got 626 dexterity, critical hit damage increased by 43%, critical hit chance increased by 5%, a chance to deal 20% area damage on hit, which I believe is perfect for a ring, 12% movement speed, which all Compass Roses come with, and then a secondary of 3,179 thorns damage. This would actually be really nice. Well, actually, no. I'm thinking of the Thorns, which would be nice for a Thorns Crusader, but then all the critical hit stuff would be terrible for a Thorns Crusader, because, of course, Thorns do not crit. But if you're using some sort of Shadow's Mantle Demon Hunter, this could potentially go into that. Or actually, if you're using some of the monks, I believe they use Compass Rose, Endless Walk setups, so that could be good for that. And he says he found that this season. So thank you, Ferris, or Firus, however I'm supposed to say it, for submitting that. And Replay is also letting me know that he did use a gift on that Star Meadow Kukri. So there you go, live updates coming to you. And that, my friends, is the end of our Items of the Week section, our end of the community section, and essentially the end of our show. So I thank all of you for joining me here tonight. I do not have anything else to really give you. If you want to, in the future, be featured on either of those sections, our email community feedback part or our items of the week, feel free to submit items either through the Westmarch Workshop Twitter account, which is the WM Workshop, or submit items via email, westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. That's where you can also send your emails if you want to talk about anything that's irking you, anything that you think is cool, or a change you wish that they would make, maybe some of your premonitions for what might happen at Blizzcon, tinfoil hat theories, theory crafting, anything you can think of, anything under the sun. We'll take a look at it and talk about it with everyone else here on the show. Let's see, we do this thing every other Wednesday. Sometimes the schedule is weird. We will have a show next Wednesday. That is something I do want to point out. And that date is the it's the 24th. Is there a 31st of August? Does anyone know? It's either the 31st of August or September 1st. But it will be next Wednesday at our standard time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, live here on twitch.tv/BlizzPro. And of course, we have other shows that happen here on the BlizzPro channel that you should totally check out because they're awesome. Like I mentioned, we are here on Wednesdays, but on Tuesdays, you can look at the Heroes Power Hour, and that's our Heroes of the Storm podcast. And they go live at 10 p.m. Eastern. On Thursdays, sandwiching us, you have the Payload, which is our Overwatch podcast. And that also goes live at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can check those guys out. They talk about all things Overwatch, and I guess there's some interesting things going on over there with Sombra. I keep seeing this word everywhere. I don't know what it means. And then at 10 p.m. Eastern on Sundays, we have the Well Met podcast, which is our lovely Hearthstone podcast, where they talk cards all day, every day. And if you're into the whole game of Hearthstone, then it's probably really interesting for you right now because all the wings of One Night in Karazhan are coming out, so definitely check those guys out for some talk about all the different new cards. Let's see. Our website is diablo.blizzpro.com. Like I mentioned, the Gamescom recap article that I was referencing, I wrote, is on there. You'll also find other, fun guides and things that might help you with your Diablo adventures, some Season 7 stuff, some older stuff, some newer stuff as it comes out. Definitely feel free to check out the website to let you know what is going on in the Diablo world when we're not here telling you about it on Wednesdays. The in-game clan, it's pretty full up. We actually, I think, are sitting at 147 or 148, and invitations are out for those last few spots. So right now we are going to kind of go back to that waiting list. If you want to make your case for joining the clan or make a little bit of a personal statement, definitely feel free to send us an email, westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. We'll read that, and it should help us kind of have a better sense of who we're going to add in. It definitely helps you out. So go ahead and do that. If you don't want to join the clan or you can't join the clan, there's always the community. That's there for everyone to hang out in. It's a Westmarch Workshop, and you can find that in-game through the search. And pretty much everyone's there. Like, it's just a ton of people. Sometimes people call out if they've got a bandit shrine in their game. Someone wants to come and help kill, a bajillion goblins in a rift. Split bounties. I did all the bounties. Come and, grab some caches for free. Like, all sorts of fun stuff. Cool stuff happens in there, so definitely check it out. We have the Discord where you can do some voice chat, and we also do some updates. Sometimes like show updates and things like that will be in there. It's kind of like a second home if you don't follow us on Twitter. So that can be found at http://discord.gg/BlizzPro. Check that out. Really good communication tool for organizing parties and things like that. If you have people that you're playing with that are also in the clan, you can throw them that info and get together and talk about things on voice. And then individually, I am Leviathan D3 on Twitter. And then 9ball is 9ball Gamer. And I also have a Twitch stream. I went super hard on streaming early this season, and then it kind of died out a little bit. So if you want to follow my stream, it's twitch.tv/Leviathan111. Still trying to figure out when I will stream again and schedule and all that stuff. Just follow, and eventually you'll get a notification, and I'll stream something at some point. No worries. But other than that, whew, I have nothing left to say. We've done it. We've made it through the show. You have been listening to the Westmarch Workshop, episode 98. That's Diablo for you. And I hope that we will be seeing you around. Get hyped for BlizzCon. I think it's less than 80 days away, maybe? Something like that. Someone better at math than I am can figure that out. Probably like 76 days? I don't know. Anyways, it's coming up soon, though. So get hype, get excited. Things will be happening. And until the next time, kill all the things. Fresh meat, and etc. Peace.